Follow the science, wear a mask, quarantine, test and trace. All these phrases we heard from the oh-so-trusted experts of the past year and a half. But now that we're almost on the other side of this pandemic entirely, we're close to it, it's obvious that there was a lack of real debate and some questions were not able to even be asked, never mind answered appropriately. I think it's fair that Americans demand some real answers. Let's start with this. Did we ever really need these face masks? Was it scientifically proven to help stop the spread of COVID, or did control freaks like Dr. Anthony Fauci terrify people so much that they still, to this day, feel safer wearing a mask, even though the CDC says you don't have to be wearing a mask outside, vaccinated or unvaccinated? New York Post columnist Karol Markowicz lays it all out in her latest piece. Was mask wearing pointless after all? Fauci must be forced to answer. She joins us now to discuss. Karol, a warrior for the truth on this one. Great to have you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Bo.
So what is your case? I mean, if I could put Fauci on the witness stand right now and force the little lab coat tyrant to answer about masks specifically, what would you be posing to him? What would you want to know?
Well, the most important thing is I want to know what changed. I think I get it. Science advances, science changes, and that's the argument he's making, is that he used to believe that masks were irrelevant to stopping COVID-19, but somewhere along the way the science changed, and now he believes that they were very useful. In fact, useful enough to become mandatory in so many places. So I want to know what happened, because he specifically says the virus is too small to be contained by masks that we find in a drugstore. At that point, it would have been medical masks in a drugstore. That's not even what we wore for 15 months. We wore T-shirts over our faces. We wore cloth masks. So I want to know what changed with the virus. Did it grow? Was the mask suddenly able to contain it because the virus got larger? I want the details, and I want our media to stop being such sycophants and just being his fan club and ask him real questions.
You know, from that email dump that recently came out from the Freedom of Information Act request, remember this one? Sylvia, masks are, this is from Dr. Anthony Fauci, February 5th of 2020. Masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. Typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. It might, however, provide some slight benefit to keep out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. They keep saying that the science changed, and then we never actually hear, do we, Karol? Where? How? I mean, the studies they point to about laboratories with basically spray bottles and a mask treating a virus like it's the same thing as mist out of a spray bottle, I don't think anybody would consider that to be a gold standard level experiment.
That's right. What's really interesting is that the World Health Organization maintained this position through last summer. They had very clearly stated on their website that the only people who should be wearing masks are those infected with COVID-19 or those caring for those people. So it was interesting because I also would love to know what happened with them. What happened? Who made them change their minds? What made them change their minds? What was the science that had them into last summer, 2020, saying no masks are necessary for the regular public?
Fauci has been making the rounds now. He's getting a little prickly these days. He can definitely, you can see that he's feeling the heat. And here he is saying that the attacks on him, and I think this is the most Fauci thing ever, the attacks on him are actually just attacks on science.
Right.
A lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science, because all of the things that I have spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people, and there was pushback against me.
This smarmy little fellow is not science. I know that he may believe that he is the personification of science and the scientific method and all knowledge. But Karol, I think that was a window into what this guy is really thinking about.
Well, so again, it would have been great for Chuck Todd to be ready with the follow up to that, which was okay, but you believe that schools should be open in the fall, and then you believe that schools shouldn't be open once you were, had to sit down with the teachers unions, and then you kind of believe schools should reopen, and then you kind of believe they shouldn't again. So where is the science in that? I mean, why his politicization isn't a topic of conversation when it absolutely should be, and questions should be asked about that politicization is an issue to me. It really is.
And we also have the remnants of what I call Fauciism continuing on. I'm here you're in New York too, right? So we're both here in New York City, which I assume some of this stuff is still being replicated also in Los Angeles and other major cities, which, as we know, this has all become it is very political. It's been political for a long time, but now you can see it in a way that no serious person argues otherwise. I mean, if you're a Democrat, basically, you still love Fauci and you wear masks a lot of the time, even when there's no rational basis for mask wearing. Even if you were a mask devotee for much of the pandemic, if you're vaccinated, you're outside, why are you still doing this? I'm concerned, Karol, that if this stuff is allowed to linger in the background without real scrutiny and without the repudiation that I believe it deserves, this is going to come back. I think people are not, how can they be done when they haven't even stopped already?
Right. Well, but I have to say, I'm sure you've noticed it as well. 6 months ago, when I would say anything against Fauci, I would get a torrent of abuse on Twitter, for example. I would get so much pushback. I would, you're not a doctor, you don't know what you're talking about. But now I don't get that pushback. I think a lot of people have soured on Fauci, and I think a lot of people do realize that this was all nonsense and none of this made any sense. And wearing the mask for the 2 steps into a restaurant and then taking it off when you sit down at the table, we all knew this was not a thing. This is not, science. And I think a lot of people have accepted it. But we happen to live in the bluest areas, of the country. And here there's still some lingering Fauci obsession. And it's really just, it's too bad. I mean, I'm in Park Slope. I don't know when they're taking off their masks in Park Slope. Like
Tell everybody, before we let you go, Karol, you recently took one of your children to a birthday party at a skating rink. What did you get put through?
Prospect Park has a roller skating rink, and you need a mask to pick up your skates, but you don't need a mask to put them on. But then you do need a mask to skate outdoors. It was 93 degrees last Saturday. Everybody was wearing the most disgusting masks you've ever seen. My son and I got twice told by the security guard to put up our masks. The security guard himself is wearing it under his nose because it's 93 degrees. And then we go to the food and cake area, and everybody's packed together, and we're all just like blowing our aerosols all over each other. It makes no sense. It has never made any sense. We need to stop this now.
I could not agree with you more, and I appreciate that you are staying on this because, first of all, it hasn't gone away, as you and I are both talking about right now, and it will come back full force unless people have to face the reality, which is that Fauci was full of crap and he was wrong on pretty much every major decision that was left to him and his little bureaucrat friends at the CDC and the NIH. Karol, stay on it. Thanks for what you've done here. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.